The iOS core trend is everywhere right now. So in this video, I want to show you step by step how you can create it in Canva. But before we jump into Canva, let's have a little chat about what this iOS core trend is and why it is popular right now. The iOS core trend is really blowing up right now on social media, and there is a good reason why. And that reason is the F in my FAST formula that I teach in growth graphics. This is something that I've been talking about for years and it still works. The F stands for familiar. People love graphics that involve something that's familiar in their everyday lives, but then we're juxtapositioning it in a way that makes it slightly different, which catches attention. So for example, those reminder posts that we've seen for years, why did they do so well? Because they use that element of familiar. This is why we've also seen graphics like receipts work well. It's using that everyday familiar thing and turning it into something different through a graphic. These kind of juxtapositions work so well in branding because they give people a bit of a dopamine hit, because we're mixing two different familiar things, a piece of content and a familiar type of graphic style, together into something new, and that gives people a bit of a dopamine hit, and this is why it works so well. So using something familiar in your graphics and turning it into a piece of content is a really effective technique. And the current style that is really working well right now is iOS. Everyone's using their iPhone, more and more people are using Mac computers, and so that iOS style is really familiar, but we're playing with it, we're having a bit of fun and turning it into content. Because the reality too is we also want something new that feels fresh. When we've started to see something a bit too much, like the reminder graphic, it starts to become less exciting because it's been overdone. So eventually people will get over iOS core as well, so now is the time to jump on it while it is fresh, new and exciting. So let's jump into Canva now and have a look at how you can replicate this style in Canva.
Alright, so first of all, let's look at some iOS core inspiration to get an idea of how this should actually look. So as you can see, people are mixing bits of iOS sort of thing like airdrop, a window frame, some folders, calendar, things like that, but they're mixing it with images of themselves, with different backgrounds, with other bits of text, with different photos, things like that. So it's sort of really mixing and matching, so even layering, so lots of these different ones layered up, and basically using these elements but not in their normal way. So not where you just take a screenshot of something on your computer or your phone, but you're mixing up those elements with other graphics, and so you're creating something really creative that sort of feels sort of collagey but digital at the same time. Alright, so now how do we create these elements? So first of all, you can actually build some of these elements in Canva. So elements like these where it's just a box and some text and lines, we can quite easily build these in Canva. Alright, so how to build these? First of all, what you want to do is actually break them apart and notice what is there. So if you're going to build any element, first of all, notice what's there and if it's something that is buildable. Is it made up of just shapes and maybe a few little icons? Something that you can easily put together in Canva. So something like this, when it's tagged, as you can see, it is just a box and a triangle. Something like the Notes app, of course, it's just a white box and then some text and a few little icons. So these sort of things are quite buildable because they're quite simple. Now you can also grab the Apple fonts. I'll go and show you that in a minute. So if you really want to make it look quite genuine, you can actually download the Apple fonts. So what I recommend with creating the elements is choose the element you want to create and break it up. So let's notice, for example, this message one. So what we would do is we would go to elements, we would grab a square. So you notice it's got the rounded corners, so you want to make it the shape that you want. Make it white. Now we want to go to the corners, give it rounded corners. And then you'll notice it's also slightly see-through, so you want to put the transparency down a little bit. And then you want to be able to add your text. So the font we're using is .sfns text. I will show you in a minute how you actually download that. So you would basically just be putting text straight in. So you've got 3 bits of text here. And then the icon. So this icon is just made of a circle. And And you can also get a screenshot and put it right next to it. Just upload a screenshot, put it on your page so you can see exactly what you're trying to create to imitate it. Then we're going to go to elements and we want speech bubble. And we can find an icon that we think is quite similar. And then we've created our message graphic. So a lot of these are the same. So it's similar with this one here, the tagging. I've just done a rectangle with curved corners and then added a triangle on top and made sure they're the same color. And then just put some text on top, so super easy. The reminder one, again, just a square with a rounded corner. And then we've just used lines. You can see it's just a line there, and then adding text. So super easy. And airdrop's quite similar too, and we've just then added a photo onto it. Then with the reminder one here, then with this Notes app one here, it's just a square with some text on it, so very simple. And then the icons, as you can see if you look carefully, it's just made up of circles. So it's just a circle with outline. So when you create a circle, you can choose stroke weight and make something with an outline. And then it's just an arrow over there. So these are all very simple little graphic elements that you can create. Now this phone one, these elements here, the actual graphics of the phone, I think they are Pro elements. Yeah, Canva Pro ones. There's a lot of the ones that are really true to ISO looking are Pro. So if you are using the free version, you may find some limitations there in terms of trying to create these elements. So you may just have to limit yourself to which ones you can create. So things like the reminder, the message, this one, the notes one will be fairly easy to do. You can also do screenshots, which we'll look at next. But some of the icons and that you may have trouble with, and also some of the elements in Canva. All right, the next way we can create elements is screenshotting. So elements that you cannot find in elements on Canva and you cannot create these more complex ones, you can simply screenshot. So screenshot on your computer, on your phone, and take them into Canva. So then what we can do is we can either add things like shadows or we can remove things. I'm going to show you how we can make little edits. So with the calendar, we don't need to do too much to it, but you may want to add something like a shadow. So you can click on it, go to Edit, Shadows, and choose Drop Shadow, and you can just add a little drop shadow to it that way. Now with ones like this, you're going to want to put a different image in, so you can just simply plonk a new image on top. So just placing another image on top of it and carefully placing inside. Or if you want to create this blank so that you can use it for whatever you want, you can just go and get a square. Then what you want to do is in color here, you want to get the color picker and match the color there. And there, now you've got something that is just blank that you can put whatever you want in. Now, another thing with these is when you take a screenshot, you will notice that a lot of the ones on the computer have cornered round edges. And when you bring in that screenshot, it's just coming in a square. You haven't got those rounded corners. So what you're actually going to do is you bring in that screenshot, then you go up here to corner rounding, and you just round the corner until it is how you want. So you'd crop it down, so if there's anything else around it when you take the screenshot, make sure you just use these little tools here to just crop, and then use the rounded corner to get that nice corner rounding. So that's how we can make those little tweaks to our screenshots to make them easier to use. Now, existing elements. As you can see here, I've already gone in and looked for a few. There are plenty of existing elements in Canva. So we've got things like these windows. We've got little simple windows like this. We've got folders. All right, so we're going to go into search and we're going to put in Apple and then what we want to look for. So let's say Apple window. And these are going to pop up. So you can see here the folder ones come up here. So we've got that folder icon. We've got a few little windows here. And as you start finding things, you can also see it will start to recommend more. So you can click on that see all and you start to see more of these different elements popping up. So you want to go in and search for some, but then you'll also, as you start to find some that are perfect, notice what it recommends, because it will start to recommend more to you that you could find useful. Now, if you notice here, most of these, well, pretty much all of them are pro. So again, if you are using free Canva, you may find this a little bit harder because most of the stuff for this style is pro. Now, before we go putting everything together, the final thing is getting the Apple font. So if you want to make it look very genuine in your graphic, you can go over to developerapple.com/fonts, and they actually have the fonts there to download. So what you're going to do is you go there, you download the font. Once it's on your computer, you then just need to search for the file name within your files on your computer. And then in Canva, what you're going to do is go to fonts. So you just click on any font, and you'll see down the bottom here, it has upload a font. Now again, this is a pro feature. So as I have said, using pro is really going to help you with this particular style. If you are using free Canva, I think it's going to be a little bit more challenging, but you can use other fonts that look similar. It's just going to be easier to create something that looks very genuine to this style if you do have pro. So you just need to go to upload a font, pick that file, and then it will go into your Canva account. So as you can see here, I've already installed it. So we've got here SF Pro Display, and we've got all the different ones there. They actually have quite a few different fonts for the various different things that they create. So feel free to download any of the fonts that you want to use. Alright, so let's create a graphic now using this. So what I've got here, I've gone and grabbed a photo of a person to get us started. So let's go and grab the calendar we made earlier. So this one was just a screenshot where we added a shadow. Add that in behind her there. As you can see, that already starts to feel quite fun. Then going back to our inspiration here, where they've got all the little Polaroids on the calendar, so maybe that could be really fun. So we can go into elements, grab a Polaroid frame. Let's just add 2 in. Alright, so it's already starting to feel quite fun. Now let's add like a little text message. So let's grab one of these. Then when we grab our text, we want to use that particular font. So it's SF Pro Display. And let's add in our phone call one too. So this is where we can be playful and fun too, you know, like autumn fashion is calling right now. So we're using something that's that very everyday, but then that juxtaposition of doing something that's a little bit fun and different like this. And there we go, we've got a graphic. So I hope that inspires you how you can create something like this. So gather your elements, look at some inspiration to try and think of what elements you may want to create or take screenshots of or find in elements, then piece it together, make something sort of collagey and fun. Create some sort of concept to it. So this one would be some sort of like a fashion concept of, you know, autumn coming. So you probably have a calendar of the autumn starting, some photos, things like that. So have a concept in mind of what you're trying to create and put together the elements that are going to help tell that story.
Now, if you feel a little bit overwhelmed trying to DIY design, if trying to keep up with styles and trying to create professional looking graphics all the time feels a bit overwhelming, you can download my free DIY Design Confidence Starter Kit, which is going to help you get started with design so you feel more confident creating graphics. Because I know if it's not your area of expertise, if it's not something you're used to doing, it can feel hard and overwhelming. And when you see these new trends out there, you feel like you can't quickly jump on it because you don't feel confident enough to create these new kinds of graphics. So if you'd like to download that, you'll find the link in the description below. So have fun with this trend. It's a really playful, fun trend that mixes that familiar that we see on the computer and on our phones with fun, bold graphics, bringing it to life in new and fun ways. And as I said before, that juxtaposition, the familiar of a piece of content, the familiarity of iOS kind of design style, and mixing it together into something new. And if you'd like to learn more trending design techniques, you can also check out my video on collage style graphics, because the collage style is also a really trending style at the moment. And if you want more design and Canva content, make sure you subscribe, and happy creating.